Welcome to At the Public Library, the video source for news and information about the San Francisco Public Library System. This month's show features a fascinating interview with the co-founders of Poltroon Press, whose work is now on exhibit at the main library. A look at the annual exhibit from the Schmulowitz collection of wit and humor. Some National Library Week celebrations at the library. And, of course, listings of upcoming library programs for children, teens, and adults at the public library. Want to learn how to read? Want to help someone else learn to read? Contact Project Read of the San Francisco Public Library at 557-4388. Project Read is an adult literacy program that provides volunteer one-to-one tutoring for adult learners. Project Read's support of tutors and students includes tutor orientation and training, continuing education workshops for tutors and students, reading diagnostics for students, family programs, and referrals to classroom instruction at community college centers and to other agencies in the community. There are many ways you can help adults achieve their personal reading goals. Call Project Read to find out how. Learn to read or be a reading tutor. Phone 557-4388.
And now, here's some news and notes of interest about the San Francisco Public Library System for April 1995. Starting this month, San Francisco's public libraries will be open more hours, and patrons will find many more new books lining the shelves of their favorite branch libraries and the main library in Civic Center. The increase in open hours and materials are the result of the passage of Proposition E, the Library Preservation Fund, approved by city voters last year. Last month, the much-anticipated schedule of increased library service hours got underway, starting first with the Bernal Branch Library and followed by the Noe Valley Sally Brunn Memorial Branch Library 1 week later. The new schedule at the Bernal Branch includes an additional evening on Tuesdays and an additional morning on Thursdays. The Bernal Branch, located at 500 Cortlandt Avenue, is now open Tuesdays, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Wednesdays from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m., Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Fridays and Saturdays from 1 to 6 p.m. The Bernal Branch is closed on Sundays and Mondays. The regularly scheduled story time at the Bernal Branch has been changed from Tuesday mornings and is now scheduled for every Thursday morning at 10:30 a.m. The new schedule at the Noe Valley Sally Brunn Memorial Branch Library, located at 451 Jersey Street, also includes new Tuesday evening and Thursday morning open hours. The Noe Valley Sally Brunn Memorial Branch is now open Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Wednesdays 1 p.m. to 9 p.m., Thursdays 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Fridays from 1 to 6 p.m., and Saturdays 12 noon to 6 p.m. The Noe Valley Sally Brunn Memorial Branch Library is closed Sundays and Mondays. New expanded schedules for the rest of San Francisco's 26 branch libraries and the main will be phased in throughout the month of April. Schedules of the new hours can be obtained at all neighborhood libraries. For additional information, call 557-4277. On March 20th, the awards ceremony for this year's Poison Prevention Week poster contest, sponsored by the San Francisco Bay Area Regional Poison Control Center, was held in the Lurie Room of the main library. The theme of this year's contest, Prevent Household Lead Poisoning, was depicted in poster form by 660 4th and 5th grade children living in 6 Bay Area counties. Each county had 3 winners, and then one overall Bay Area winner was selected. The award ceremony at the main library was for the San Francisco winners and the overall grand prize winner, which this year was won by Alvin Moody of Edendale School in San Lorenzo. The San Francisco first place winner was Tara Tahir of Lawton School. Second place went to Jennifer Chien, also of Lawton School. And the third place winner was Janny Shen of Commodore Stockton School. Elise Stone, Health Education Coordinator for the San Francisco Bay Area Poison Control Center, has been conducting the Poison Prevention Week poster contest for the past 5 years. This year's winners received U.S. savings bonds of varying values. After the ceremony, the winners and their classmates and families went up to the second floor of the main library where the winning posters were on display, along with 20 honorable mention posters and an educational display on general poison and lead poisoning prevention. San Francisco's main library, with its recently established resource collection for learning differences, has become the first public library in the United States to offer services that specifically focus on learning differences. The Resource Collection for Learning Differences is located on the second floor of the main library and is a resource information center that provides comprehensive information and education about and for people who have learning differences.
The Resource Collection for Learning Differences started in September of 1993 and opened to the public in September, October of 1994. It's a collection of books, audios, and videos for adults and children on learning differences and for people with learning differences. It also serves the parents and the professionals who serve people with learning differences. The Resource Collection for Learning Differences is funded by the Roberts Foundation and Parents Educational Resource Center, which is a program of the Charles and Helen Schwab Foundation. The Parents Educational Resource Center, since they are one of my funders, well, let's put it this way, they're not only one of my funders, but they have given me a lot of guidance and support in setting up this collection. They have an information and resource center in San Mateo with a library collection for parents and teachers with serving for parents and teachers that have kids with learning differences. The collection has a lot of books, videos, and audios that deal with attention deficit, learning differences, discipline and behavior, parenting, and there are a lot of topics on special education. So it's only been open a few months, but it's been really great. The people that have come in, they've been really grateful for just seeing the collection, and they keep telling me about what a great need it's fulfilling.
Most of the Resource Collection for Learning Differences materials can be borrowed for out-of-the-library use, but some materials are only for reference use in the library. For more information about the main library's Resource Collection for Learning Differences and the current schedule of open hours, call 557-4540. And this month on April 13th, the Resource Collection for Learning Differences and the Parents Educational Resource Center will present an exclusive West Coast lecture by Harvard University psychologist Howard Gardner, who will be speaking on the topic of multiple intelligences, the theory and its application at home and in the classroom. There is a $10 fee for the lecture, and scholarships are available. Register by mail by April 3rd. The lecture will take place at the Dunphy Hotel in San Mateo. Call area code 415-655-2410 for more information. April brings the return of the annual Potrero Hill Artists Exhibition to the Potrero Branch Library. This is the 40th year of the exhibition, which features works by Potrero Hill residents. The show runs throughout the month of April and can be viewed during Potrero Branch Library open hours. The Potrero Branch is located at 1616 20th Street. And finally, this reminder, the main library will be closed on Easter Sunday, April 16th.
It's tax time again. The filing deadline for your 1994 state and federal taxes is Wednesday, April 15th, 1995. The San Francisco Public Library does not carry either California or federal tax forms. However, you can pick up your California state tax forms at the Franchise Tax Board, located at 50 Fremont Street on the 9th floor in Suite 900, Mondays through Fridays from 8 to 5 p.m. Federal tax forms are available at the Federal Office Building at 450 Golden Gate Avenue on the 1st floor in room 5403, Mondays through Fridays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Or, tax forms can be obtained by calling the IRS at 1-800-TAX-FORM. That's 1-800-829-3676. The IRS also offers telephone tax help. Call 1-800-829-1040. For phone help for the hearing impaired, call 1-800-829-4059. This number is answered by TDD equipment only. Although the San Francisco public libraries do not carry tax forms, here are some dates for the various tax informational events during the month of April in the library. The Ortega branch will be holding free income tax assistance for senior citizens sessions again this year. Sponsored by the American Association of Retired Persons, this weekly service will take place each Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. through April 11th. These sessions are for senior citizens only. The Ortega branch is located at 3223 Ortega Street at 39th Avenue. Each Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Western Addition branch will be offering free income tax assistance for low-income seniors. VITA IRS-trained volunteers will assist taxpayers with basic federal and state returns. Bring your tax forms and other pertinent information with you. However, assistance is not available for business, rental, or partnership income. The Western Addition branch is located on 1550 Scott Street at Geary. The Anza branch is also offering free income tax assistance for low-income seniors on Saturdays. They will be held from 1 to 5 p.m. VITA IRS-trained volunteers will assist taxpayers with basic federal and state returns. Bring your tax forms and other pertinent information with you. However, assistance is not available for business, rental, or partnership income. The Anza branch is located on 550 37th Avenue at Anza. The Excelsior branch is offering free income tax assistance in English and Spanish each Saturday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. VITA IRS-trained volunteers will assist taxpayers with basic federal and state returns. The Excelsior branch is located on 4400 Mission Street at Cotter. The Potrero branch will have counselors available for free tax assistance each Saturday from 1 to 5 p.m. through April 15th. The Potrero branch is located at 1616 20th Street at Connecticut. And while you're doing your taxes, you may want to make a donation to help public school libraries. Just check your California income tax form under the Contributions section for the California Public School Library Protection Fund. And good luck with your taxes. It's time now for the San Francisco Public Library calendar of events for children for the month of April. Beginning with the West Portal branch, which has a preschool story time for children ages 3 to 5 years old every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m., a toddler lap sit for ages 3 to 7. And on Tuesdays, April 4th, 18th, and 25th at 10:30 a.m., a preschool story time program for ages 3 to 5. On April 11th at 10:30 a.m. and April 15th at 11 a.m., a preschool film program for ages 3 and up. That's all at the West Portal Branch Library, located at 190 Lenox Way at Terabel. And the Anza branch will be having family story time for ages 3 and under each Wednesday in April at 7:15 p.m. On Tuesday, April 18th at 3:30 p.m., an SPCA Dog Talk with special canine guests. And on Tuesday, April 4th, 18th, and 25th at 10:30 a.m., a preschool storytime program for ages 3 to 6. On April 11th at 3 p.m., an afternoon crafts program for all ages. Also on April 11th at 10 and 11 a.m. in the morning, a preschool film program for 3 to 6-year-olds. That's all at the Anza branch, located at 550 37th Avenue, near Anza. The North Beach branch is presenting a program with Yo-Yo the Clown for all age groups on April 13th at 2:30 p.m. And April 18th at 10, 10:30, 11, and 3 brings a film program for children ages 3 to 5. Also on April 18th at 3:45 p.m., an after-school film program for 6-year-olds and over. That's all at the North Beach branch, located at 2000 Mason Street near Columbus. The Sunset Branch Library presents preschool story times for children ages 2 to 5 on Tuesdays, April 4th, 11th, and 25th at 10:30 a.m. On April 18th at 10:30 and 11:15 a.m., and again at 1:30 p.m., a preschool film program for 2 to 5-year-olds. On April 19th at 7 p.m., an evening video program for 6-year-olds and over. And on April 22nd at 3:30 p.m., a sing-along program with Jim McInerney for all age groups. On April 25th at 10:30 a.m., a preschool story time for ages 2 to 5. That's all at the Sunset Branch Library, located at 1305 18th Avenue, near Irving. The Bayview Anna E. Wadden branch is presenting a preschool program for children ages 3 to 5 on April 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th, all at 10:15 a.m. The Bayview Wadden branch is located at 5075 3rd Street, near Revere. The Ingleside branch is having a preschool story time and crafts program for children ages 3 to 5 on Tuesday, April 4th at 10 a.m. On April 11th at 3:30 p.m., an after-school crafts program for 6-year-olds and over. On April 18th at 10 a.m., a preschool video program for ages 3 to 5. And on April 25th at 10:30 in the morning, a mask-making program for 7-year-olds and over. All at the Ingleside branch at 387 Ashton Avenue, near Ocean. The Marina branch will be presenting a preschool video program for children ages 3 to 5 on April 11th at 10:30 a.m. with It's So Nice to Have a Wolf Around the House, Dragon Stew, and Strega-Nona. That's all at the Marina Branch Library, located at 1890 Chestnut Street, near Webster. On April 25th at the Richmond branch, Two Tomato the Clown will be juggling and clowning for children ages 3 to 5. Every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m., an infant toddler lapsit is held for children from 6 months to 3 years. Tuesdays, April 4th, 11th, and 25th, a storytime program at 11 a.m. for children ages 3 to 5. On April 28th at 11 a.m., spend the morning with children's author Martin Waddell. And on April 18th at 10:15 and 11 a.m., a preschool film program. That's all at the Richmond branch at 351 9th Avenue, near Clement. The main library is presenting a preschool film program for children ages 3 to 5 on April 19th at 10 and 10:45 a.m. and 2 p.m. and on April 20th at 10 and 10:45 a.m. On April 19th at 4 in the afternoon, an after-school video program for children 6 and up. And every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m., a family story time program for children ages 3 to 5, interpreted in American Sign Language. That's all at the main library in the Civic Center at the corner of Larkin and McAllister Streets.
Beast sees how lonely and how sad Belle is, and he wants to make her life in the castle happier.
I want to do something for her.
Suddenly, Beast realizes just what will please Belle most of all.
I've never seen so many books in all my life.
You like it?
It's wonderful.
Then it's yours.
It can be yours, too. Open the door to wonder. Get your library card.
Can I get my library card, too?
In celebration of National Library Week, April 9th through 15th, the San Francisco Public Library has invited 2 award-winning children's authors to come speak. Marilyn Sachs will talk about her books and work on Saturday, April 15th at 2 p.m. in the main library's Lurie Room. Ms. Sachs lives in San Francisco and is the author of many books for children and teens, including A Pocket Full of Seeds and The Bear's House. She has also been a mentor to other local authors, and she contributes her time to speak at conferences and book fairs in support of literacy and books. Ms. Sachs will be available to autograph books after her talk. Martin Waddell, the author of preschool picture books such as Alice the Artist, Farmer Duck, and Squeak a Lot, will be reading his books on Friday, April 29th at the Richmond Branch Children's Room at 11 a.m. Mr. Waddell lives in Ireland and believes that a picture book story is a script for performance to a very personally involved audience that wants to stop, ask questions, look, and point things out. That's a National Library Week appearance at the Richmond Branch Library on April 29th at 11 a.m.
Hi, I'm Susan Harloe, middle school outreach librarian, and I'm here reading a book on this beautiful spring day in front of the Western Addition Library. We have a lot of programs planned for middle schoolers this spring, and the very first one will be a part of our Job Clinic series. It will be held here at the Western Addition Library on Wednesday, May 3rd at 4 p.m. The second clinic will be at the Bernal Heights Library on Wednesday, May 10th at 4 p.m. The next at the Bayview Library, Thursday, May 11th at 4 p.m. Then the Chinatown Library, Saturday, May 13th at 2:30 p.m. The main library Lurie Room, Monday, May 15th at 4 p.m. The West Portal Library, Wednesday, May 17th at 3:30 p.m. And finally, at the Anza Library, Thursday, May 18th at 3:30 p.m. We also have some skin and makeup care clinics for middle schoolers. The very first one will be held on Friday, May 5th at the Mission Branch at 3:30 p.m. The second will be Thursday, May 11th at the Excelsior Branch at 4 p.m. The third at the Parkside Branch, Friday, May 12th, 3:30 p.m. Then the Ocean View Branch, Saturday, May 20th at 1 p.m. And finally the Richmond Branch, Wednesday, May 24th at 3:30 p.m. So come to the public library and celebrate spring.
Every year during the months of April and May, the main library's Special Collections Department presents an exhibit featuring materials from the library's Schmulowitz collection of wit and humor. This year's exhibit, entitled Funny Girls, was coordinated by Special Collections librarian Stan Carroll. Begun in 1947, the Schmulowitz collection of wit and humor includes books in over 35 languages and spans over 400 years. And it's now one of the largest collections of wit and humor in the world.
The Schmulowitz collection is one of our special collections. It was donated by Nat Schmulowitz in 1961. Nat Schmulowitz was a San Francisco lawyer, practiced law in the 20s and 30s and 40s in San Francisco. He was best known as one of the attorneys who defended Fatty Arbuckle in his famous case, the alleged crime that took place in the St. Francis Hotel. Well, he got Fatty Arbuckle off, and that may have started his interest in comedy and humor, and he developed a collection of his own. He went around the world, collected books in any language. He had no restrictions as long as it had to do with humor, or was humor, or an example of humor. In 1960, he decided to donate his collection to the library. He had been one of the friends of the library, one of the original friends, a big library supporter. And in 1961, he donated his collection, beginning with 1,000 books. Through the next few years, he donated the rest of his collection, which ultimately was 17,000 books. It's 30,000 now. In addition, Nat had a sister who was also very fond of him and very fond of the collection. She also left an endowment. So actually there are 2 endowments from the Schmulowitz family which support this collection. It is an ideal collection in that sense. No matter how much the library's budget is cut, we still have the money that is dedicated to support it, so it continues to be current and complete, and we can buy and fulfill Nat's wishes, because this is what he wanted. And it's being here in the Special Collections Department guarantees that. It will always be here, and we maintain the books in their original condition, so that they will always be here. They're not, they don't check out, but people are certainly welcome to come in anytime and look at them. We have Mad Magazine up here. We have Harvard Lampoon. We have some humor digests. We have the Journal of Irreproducible Results, which is a parody of academic research journals, which is very funny. There are foreign language periodicals. In addition to what I was mentioning, we have a French periodical, a Swiss one, Nebelspalter. The Russian humor magazine, Crocodile, went out of publication for a while and then came back in, and we have that still. It's still coming now regularly. We get the British one, Private Eye, which is very risque and people love it. I don't know anywhere else around here where you can find Private Eye. They may have it over in Berkeley, but I'm pretty sure nowhere else in the city. We have people who come here just every week to read that and the tabloid we get from Paris. Every year, in honor of the endowment and in accordance with Nat's wishes, we do an exhibit from the collection. April actually is Humor Month. I don't know who designated it that, but someone did, and we've always observed it. So in April, we install an exhibit of books from the humor collection.
This year's humor exhibit, entitled Funny Girls, features material by women humorists, authors, and cartoonists through the ages. The exhibit can be viewed in Phelan Hall on the 3rd floor of the main library, now through May 31st. The Schmulowitz collection of wit and humor can be accessed through the Special Collections Department, also located on the 3rd floor of the main library.
April is American Humor Month at the main library's Thursday noon video program. The series begins on April 6th with The Man Who Corrupted Hadleyburg. Robert Preston stars in this darkly comic vision of hypocrisy in small-town America, written by Mark Twain. Also showing on April 6th is I'm a Fool by Sherwood Anderson. Ron Howard is Andy, a young man who's trapped in a web of lies when he tries to impress Amy Irving as the wealthy girl of his dreams. On April 13th, the story of Will Rogers, produced in 1961 by the NBC News Project 20, includes rare documentary footage and a film biography of this nationally beloved cowboy humorist. The first of Lily Tomlin's specials, produced for TV in 1973, will be featured on April 20th. This Emmy Award winner also stars Richard Pryor and Alan Alda. April 27th brings The Regard of Flight, created by Bill Irwin, a delightfully zany thinking man's clown. He dances, floats, skips, and trips his way through this original commentary on modernist theater. So join us for American Humor, a free large-screen video showing each Thursday at noon in the main library's Lurie Room. You're watching At the Public Library on cable channel 54, City Watch in San Francisco. Trance and Recalcitrance, a 20-year retrospective exhibition of Poltroon Press, will run from April 1st through May 31st on the 3rd floor of the main library. Dominic Reilly and John Demerritt from Pacific Center for the Book Arts spoke with the founders of Poltroon Press, Francis Butler and Alastair Johnston.
Hello and welcome back to at the Public Library, John and Dominic's show, and we're going to be talking today to two great friends and famous printers from Berkeley. But before we do, let me just remind you that it is St. Patrick's Day. We're both wearing our identical shades of non-green to celebrate the day. And we're here in the, what could only be described really as the labyrinthine bowels of the third floor of the Public Library.
Actually, we're 30 feet below the surface of the Earth, Dominic.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
So when I went up, I really went down.
You were really going down. It's kind of scary down
It
there.
is. It's, well, we're in, I think, what you might call an environment, a sort of Vincent Price environment, wouldn't you say, John?
Yeah, I would. Did you know Vincent Price could sneeze with his eyes open?
Could he?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, without further ado, let us move on. Today's show that we're going to be looking at is a show called Trance and Recalcitrance. 20 years of fine printing at the Poltroon Press in Berkeley. And we're going to be talking to the proprietors of the press, Francis Butler and Alastair Johnson.
We should start out by saying that you are a small press. And you do letterpress printing. Maybe we should begin by you giving us a short description of exactly what is a small press. How does letterpress printing differ from other kinds of printing? And
well, I don't know if you can see it, but this is a small press right here.
How do you
That's
fit
a tiny
into
press.
that small press?
Being so large. Well, we've expanded over the years, I guess you could say.
But you have artifacts, right? Which
Artifacts,
you're going to
yes.
show us what letterpress
Well, letterpress
is.
printing is essentially printing from pieces of small metal called movable type, which
What's
you
that device in your hand?
This is
that
a
you're...
composing stick.
Uh-huh.
And you compose these.
That's not the kind of thing that Sir Henry Wood used to use.
No, that was a conducting baton.
Oh, right, okay.
So you're setting a line of type.
You set a line of type, and you put in little blank spaces for the
what would you call
spaces.
those? Yeah.
And then it's a very time-consuming and laborious process, as you can see.
Yeah.
You look tired.
But when you get to the end of the line,
you don't want to eat your sandwich after doing that either.
no, that's right.
Lead's poisonous.
Well, it's good for the complexion, I hear. When you get to the end of the line, you put in blank spaces to fill out the line, and then you add one of these things, which is called a lead or a slug, and you have your line there, which says Pence Pluntros.
Oh, which is an anagram of my favourite press in Berkeley, Poltroon
Press.
Isn't that wonderful?
And this then is, this type is then locked up in a chase, which is then put into a...
But you could also set multiple lines of type in the same way that you've just done.
Ah, look at that, yeah.
You lock it up like this.
Now that's wood type you have there.
This is wood type, and you lock it up, and then this metal frame locks into a bed of a printing press, and then you smash pieces of paper against it after inking it. And you end up with multiple copies.
Great. So
this is very close to the mode that Gutenberg devised in 1450 some odd.
So we're saying not a lot has changed then in terms of the work that you're doing?
Well, up to letterpress, not a lot changed. It was for the printing technique for 400 years. Since then, I mean, it's gone into various other technologies.
And are you exploring any other kinds of printing technologies, or are you still primarily a letterpress?
Well, we used a broken Xerox machine for a while, which is a color Xerox machine, which was interesting, and we've used other forms of printing. One of the great innovations was the introduction of linotype 100 years ago.
Yes, right.
Where you set your type and you ended up with a whole line, a line O type, and it makes it a lot easier to deal with. You don't have the problem of your type all pieing.
This is just a solid block.
You're just keying in the...
You type it, essentially.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Right.
And
that's
you
great.
end up with your page of metal. It's a lot easier to handle.
But you have to throw this away once the job's done, right?
Right.
Unlike this, which goes back into the tray.
You melt it back down and use it again?
You melt linotype down.
And if you make a mistake, you have to reset the line.
Sure. But these machines are very big, the linotype machines, right? I mean, you wouldn't have one at home in your press.
We do.
You do? You have a linotype machine?
They're humongous.
Wow.
They're very kind of Rube Goldbergish with 30,000 moving parts.
Wow, gosh.
And you have magazines of different fonts that you can use.
Right, and each size of each typeface requires a different set of matrices. So you need a lot of brass and metal.
But it really is a great time saver.
Not really, because you spend so much time working on the machine that it would be quicker to hand set it.
Hand set it. So why do you use it?
Usually if I'm doing longer works, prose works or longer books of poetry. We use it for that.
Right. Now, can you talk briefly about how you both got into letterpress? What first exposed you to that?
Well, actually, Alastair was working for a printer who did university press books in Santa Barbara, and meanwhile in Berkeley, I had taken some classes in letterpress, and I was invited to teach a class in the Bancroft Library, and so I had, it had been a year or two since I'd done any work, and I went down to refurbish my skills at a local letterpress, and Alastair was an apprentice there. And he and I started working together.
What was the name of that press?
That was Wesley Tanner's
Reef
press.
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 Oh, yes, right.
And I had a letterpress. I had bought an old Vandercook 219, and it was in this large fabric printing company that I owned and operated at the time. And so through various misadventures, Wesley threw Alastair out onto the street, and he came and worked at my press.
No, that's
we started it that
once
way.
again.
Well, I think we should have a little melodrama in the
Well, come on, we don't want to fight on public television, do we? Although it is cable.
Yeah, it is cable.
That kind of thing does happen quite a lot.
I mean, I can strangle Francis right now.
You can do. So she's answered your question, really, about how you got into it, or is there more to that story?
I have nothing more to add.
Okay, that's good, right.
And it's all history of the... And the Bay Area, Berkeley and the Bay Area does have a pretty rich tradition of letterpress printing.
Oh, yeah, in fact, that's why I came here, because when I was in Santa Barbara, I knew Graham McIntosh, who'd been in San Francisco in the 50s, was running White Rabbit Press. And I was just getting interested in small press publishing through the poetry.
So you came here for exposure to that?
Well, I knew that this was kind of the hotbed of where it was going on.
Right.
There was Cranium Press, Zephyrus Image, Five Trees Press. We're all...
Who were some of the people that influenced or helped you to learn the craft of letterpress?
Well, Francis primarily, and Wesley, but
Wesley Tanner.
2 years working in the trade letterpress shop is where I picked up all the sort of mechanical part, and then the typographic stuff you just learn by looking at books.
Right. Yeah. So after you two guys met, you founded the press April the 1st, 1975, right? Talk a bit about the very early days of the press and the kind of stuff that you were printing.
The first few things we did were our own projects, little poetry books, and Francis started working on our first big book, Confracti Mundi Rudera.
This was our first large-scale project in which we worked out one of the two streams of activity in the press. One of them, part of the press is a purely literary press. The other half of the press is exploring the way in which people now use visual imagery for sophisticated communication. And most of the books that I have worked on and the projects after that have been oriented towards exploring the ways that people use image and space to get parallel information to that they learn through reading, that they can gather in through the institutional culture, which is language and its transmission through universities and so on and so on. And so this book has a lot of visual jokes that have to do with turning the page, looking in and out of images. For example, here's a poem about fog. Alcatraz, gray this morning, barely cuts the rim of the bay. And you can't see the text very easily because it's printed inside.
But it's there.
But it's, you can see
if you press it down, you can see.
You can read it. And it is about
This
fog.
is Confracti Mundi Rudera, right? Which
Yes. It's a phrase from Thomas Love Peacock, which means fragments of a ruined world, and it's a series of poems. And then this one there's a little section about water, and then there's another poem about water for search for Viking leader, first off the boat. So we swim out with gifts, and then there's a double-page spread wherein they are swimming out with gifts, and one of them is saying, Sutton, who? So this book is indeed fragments tied together by visual puns and jokes. And then at the end of this book, I started on another book that used the text by Tom Rayworth. And Alastair will talk about our connection with Tom Rayworth later. But the Rayworth book is a much more elaborate version of this page-turning joke sequence because the Rayworth text itself, logbook, is about a series of pages that were found after a wreck. And Alastair very carefully set them all so they were justified and ended at the end of a page regardless, which is a very exotic thing to have managed.
Tremendous
This book
accomplishment.
is color letterpress. Each plate, each color is a separate plate, but it also has some pochoir, which is a French stencil process that I will discuss in a moment. And there are sequences within the book wherein you read one page, the illustration wraps around to the next page, but the information that is on the next page actually refers back to the page before, so that the notion of sequence and spacing as a way of learning things is played out. Here's one where the text is about overflowing the river something something, and using the word overflown, which is not in fact the past participle of to overflow, but Rayworth suggests the past participle of the possibility of overflying. So after you have the discussion of overflown on this page, there is someone who's overflying, but at this point you would have to go back to find out that this person is about to be shot down. Zut. So we went on with this kind of maneuver for a while, but Alastair then proceeded to move off into more examinations of pure literature.
Right, now, you tell us a little bit, Alastair, about the sort of you talked about the press tradition. Talk about the literary tradition of the area and how that ties in with the work that you at the Poltroon Press have been doing.
Well, California didn't really have much of a literary tradition, of course, until the gold rush. I mean, there were writings about it, but there was a press tradition here starting after the gold rush with a huge influx of people, and in fact, probably the most commonly printed thing in San Francisco in the 19th century was salmon tin labels. They were lithographed. So there was huge lithographic presses, and by the 20th century you had a literary tradition sort of springing up, you know, Steinbeck. Robert Louis Stevenson was here for a while, and he had a little press. His stepson had a little tabletop press, and he and Robert Louis Stevenson printed a magazine together up in, I think, St. Helena when they were living there. But for me, in terms of my interest, the literature that starts after the Second World War is sort of crucial. The Beat era, the famous people associated with City Lights, but also the anti-Beat movement of the Jack Spicer, Robert Duncan
And this
group.
this leads perhaps into this book, the Arhan Press.
Right. Well, when I moved to
bibliography.
San Francisco, I was sort of looking for this, this literary tradition.
Sure.
And Arhan Press had only ceased publishing about 10 years before we started Poltroon Press, but there really wasn't much information about them. So I decided to research them and write a bibliography. And so I found the press archive.
What was your initial exposure to this press?
A Jack Spicer book called Heads of the Town Up to the Ether, which was one of my favorite books. A very strange and quirky book with lithographs by Fran Herndon and a wonderful series of poems by Spicer, one of the great San Francisco authors. So I found the press archive over at the Bancroft Library and started working on putting together the history of the press. So there are letters from Ginsberg, Brian Geisen.
Oh, this is a Brian Geisen illustration.
Yeah,
right?
which he'd sent Dave Hazelwood and was in a box at the Bancroft. So
and how did you reproduce this for the book?
We well, this is a very kind of backward way to go about it, but we photographed the original art, which is in 3 colors, and then we made 3 photostats of it, and carefully painted out each of the colors we didn't want. So we ended up with 3 plates. It was kind of a subtractive process.
David Lanscoins works that way.
Oh, he does.
Oh, he does.
He does.
And then was a letter from William Burroughs explaining how to do a cut-up, and there's a page of type, and you could actually rip the page out and tear it into 4.
Why don't you do that?
You want to show us how you do it?
Well, it's this tough paper.
Oh, yeah.
It's Mylar, isn't it?
We could take a photocopy later, perhaps, to do it the cheap way.
We'll tear it up.
And then there were little drawings by Michael McClure.
Can you show us the newspaper article that you actually set in letterpress type, the movable type we saw earlier,
was a
to look like a newspaper?
Yeah, it's from the San Francisco Chronicle, a very funny article called "The Poets Cry Out: Zen Nuts, Hippies, and Squares." And I set it to look like exactly like a bad newspaper typesetting. I just followed the original. And to give the flavor of the the era, I thought it would be good to have this, actual account. There's a wonderful. It's I won't read you the whole thing, but there's a wonderful thing that says something about a few of the blonde girls wearing black stockings chewed gum and slouched against the wall in the back, obviously missing the nuances, but the rest were appreciative enough.
Just a bit of early sexism from sexism. Oh, I'm glad I wasn't around then, aren't you?
Well, I was around, actually.
You were?
Yes.
Oh dear.
He's well preserved.
No, you talked a little bit in the catalogue about the way that this type was set in the stick, and then
I
the
felt
wobbliness of it, I think.
Yeah, I felt that in order to preserve the spirit of the beat era,
Yes.
that I should have some sort of spontaneity involved. So I improvised the text as I was setting it, and then I put it on the bed of the press and proofed it, and then after mature consideration, took out all the slanderous and libelous things that were in there. And,
That's a good idea.
Apparently still
You don't
not
always
enough.
do that, do you?
Well, there was a section back here where there was a big fight that they had with Robert Duncan over a book of his called A Book of Resemblances, which they ended up not printing, although they'd set the type and so on. And after setting all this stuff, I thought, I can't really get into all this mudslinging. So I'd already printed the backup. So I had a whole bunch of zincs made, and so all these illustrations were to fill up the space where I took out the quasi-libelous material.
That must have been very slanderous. You
It was
removed quite a bit, Alastair.
pages of slander.
Good.
Yes.
Well, thanks for showing that. And we're going to talk now about
Right,
what I like to call ECAs.
EACs, extracurricular activities. I mean, Alastair, you were involved in the poetry and literary scene as well as being a printer. And I think recently you've become very involved, especially after a trip to Africa and African music, film, literature, and you now have a radio program on KUSF, which
Tuesday
is
nights,
Tuesday
90.3 FM.
Which actually we've already plugged on this program, haven't we? So
We've
now I
plugged
think
it
you'll have to plug our program on your program.
I will do that.
And if you have a program, please plug all our
All
programs.
right, I'm wondering, usually he gives away free tickets to things. This lures in the audience. And if he's going to plug you, you'll have to have free tickets for something.
Well, we're not live.
You just give them to all your friends anyway, don't you?
Yeah, free tickets here. And your work also, we're very interested in what I like to call, or I guess you call also, poetry gardens.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
After doing some books for the first 10 years of the press, I really moved off to do a lot of text in gardens and in larger sculptural installations. I started off with just small pieces, like a 16-foot long wire piece that had hands on it. And if you walked past it to read the letters on each hand, the hands waved.
Yeah.
And the text was from a Stevie Smith poem that Alastair pointed out. I'm not waving, she said. I'm too far out, she said, and not waving, but drowning. And then I moved on to do large-scale installations, one called Space Printing, that was about, indeed, the ways that you use space to learn. And then I did a series of shows about shadow in the visual arts, and I did a shadow garden for myself, which still exists. It's called a shadow dictionary of shadow effects, and the latest book that I've done is about gardens that are about shadow and things of that sort. And I did some gardens for a hospital in Seattle that involved shadow. It's very difficult because
These
there's
were
hardly any.
public installations that you did.
That's right.
Hardly any what? Sunlight?
There's hardly any
There's
sun
in Seattle.
Seattle, so shadow is difficult to achieve, but it was lit so that at night there would be.
That's great.
And we are going to have in our exhibition some of the smaller.
And these gardens
sculptural
have worked
pieces
their
that
way
I've done.
into some of your printed pieces.
Oh, yes. My particular
Yeah.
favourite is in your garden on a sort of cuboid shaped planter. In mosaic, you have the large word excess, right? And this became part of the title of a book called Western Excess, right?
Yes.
Which is your other book done in pochoir, which I think you're now going to show us, right?
Yes. About 10 years ago, I did a pochoir portfolio called New Dryads or Waiting for Your Call, which was about fashion plates or ordinary fashion. And I have now done another portfolio that is colored by pochoir, which is a stencil process. And this one is about excessive gardens. And I used, for its title page, a drawing of my own shadow garden in Berkeley. This one, as you see, is a planter with a lot of extra babies called Excess. And the way you do the plates for a portfolio like this is first draw the image. And these are done with rapidograph pens and take forever and ever.
And Francis, pochoir
is the word meaning stencil in French.
Another French word.
And I will show you how to do that very briefly in a moment.
Now, is this transferred to Mylar? Or?
No, then you get the drawing photographed on a large camera and get a negative. That is used to make a metal plate. This is actually magnesium, and this is 18 by 24. And from this plate, you put it down on the press.
So will you take the negative to an engraver and they'll make the plate for you?
I do a lot of the work myself, but I get the etching done by someone who has a large etching machine. And then this is a printed image from that plate. And at this point, I mount this, I punch the image and mount it so that it's in registration.
Those are your registration marks.
And I put on waxed stencil paper, which is called Easy Cut, and cut out.
So that's held on these little pins.
With the little pins.
So that
and
your
I cut
registration
out
is...
these squares, which are going to be a blue color. Actually, I only cut out half of them. The other blue squares are cut on a second plate because they have to register so closely that it would be too frail. And at this point, I
have your paints here.
I then use
which I'll hold.
Paint, which is usually very, very dry, and a little cloth to clear out the extra paint. Yes, but you can use many different kinds of paint. I've used watercolor and acrylic. And I stencil in through this wax paper stencil all the holes in this one color.
Right.
And eventually, I haven't done it all here, but eventually it looks like this.
And if I just hold this up, we can see
the
small area of blue that Francis has just coloured in there, which is kind of corresponds to that part there.
Now this is an edition you're working on of this.
Yes.
And what's the edition size?
Well, there are 45 plates that are involved in this book, and there are going to be 30 copies, which will take me it already has taken me forever, but it will take me quite a bit longer.
So
that gives you an idea of the labor involved.
How many stencils, say, for a thing like this?
This one has about 20 stencils and about 45 different color placements. I don't have to use a complete sheet for every single one. And sometimes, as colors, mottled colors like this, you actually put the color through in small stencil areas and then wash it out so it all blends.
Is there text with this book?
Yes, it has about 15 pages of text. Some of it is incorporated into picture images. Others is just, it's a very odd book because it's this size, 17 by 22.
And it'll be produced in loose folios that will come in a box
that has a tiled cover saying excess, naturally.
That's great. Well, thanks for showing us that,
yes,
Francis.
you can all rush out and do it any moment now.
Absolutely, yes. Well, now she's shared the secrets with us.
And the book logbook we looked at earlier was also an example of some pochoir printing.
Can you just hand us the logbook? Because this leads us on very nicely to Alastair's new book. This is Logbook, which was a book that I think you did in '77, was that right?
That's right, yeah.
Which had those lovely illustrations, also done in pochoir, right?
One or two of them.
Turn it that way, done.
Right, sorry.
Most of them were mechanically separated.
These are an early book. Now, you did this with Tom Rayworth, and you've had, Paul True, you've had a long association with many poets, artists, writers that you've enjoyed working with, and one of them is Tom Rayworth, who's an English poet, right?
Yeah, and another is Philip Whalen, who's a San Francisco poet. We've done
and you'll
several
also
things.
publish several books of poets that you enjoy
Darrell
working
Gray,
with.
we published 3 or 4 of his books. So if there's a poet we get along with and like their work, you know, we might as well keep publishing them.
Right, and we have right here.
Yeah, this is our 4th book with Tom Rayworth. We did, other than the logbook, we did 2 other poetry books, The Mask in 1976 and Nicht wahr Rosie, which was a book that he wrote in the 60s and we had never appeared, and we published it in about 1979.
Right. This is Muted Hawks, the latest book from Poltroon Press, one of them. And this is also, I believe, Alastair, your first real adventure into editioned art, right?
Yeah, I've done a few one-off experimental projects, but this was one where I took some ideas that I've been working with experimental relief printing that are essentially monoprints, but then found a way to recreate them 40 times. So there are slight variations in all of them, but they were all done on the press in the style that's called hot printing that was invented by Hendrik Workman in Holland in the 30s. And he basically found things in the print shop, such as here we've got some broken wood type, and the background is electrical tape, and you just mount them type high. I just took a piece of type high furniture and strapped the tape onto it and then ran the press over.
The furniture is the pieces of wood that fill up the spaces inside the
and
press.
And you just put tape over that.
Yeah, and actually this is metal furniture here that I just... one of the great innovations in press design has been the adjustable bed.
Right.
So you can raise the bed of the press.
So if I understand it, normally these things here would be
lower than type high.
They would be lower than the level of the type, so they wouldn't print.
They're invisible. They fill up the
and you've
space.
deliberately
But you have an
raised
adjustable bed that will raise that.
I've raised them up to print.
And these
this is wooden furniture.
Pieces of furniture also print. Yeah.
Now it's a very delicate thing because you don't want to trash your rollers, and also you don't want to put holes in the paper, so you still have to get everything planar. It all has to be relatively flat. I mean, the texture of the wood has created a surface here. More impression would make this darker, less would make it lighter. So I was playing with the balance between the impression and the inking, and then there are other things happening in here. Like these lines are, this is cardboard that I mounted type high. This little strip is a piece of floor linoleum printed twice in two different colors, slightly out of register.
It has a look of marbled paper, I don't know if you can see that. And it's the most amazing collection of metaphorical imagery strung together, and it's a gorgeous...
And Dominic's done a very nice concertina-style binding.
Yes, and it actually plays Auprès de ma blonde.
It is Poltroon's second favorite bookbinder.
I think so, and the first favorite bookbinder is you, I think. Yeah, we've pretty much covered all the bases, haven't we? Which is very interesting. And
we don't have to plug you in our Alastair's program since you just
We've
did it.
shamelessly promoted ourselves.
Yes, well, we're not being paid very much, and I always think I'm not going to complain to the city of San Francisco.
And they have put us in the basement after all.
Yes, but we're
subterranean.
But we're not being cut, are we? Not yet.
Yeah. And I would like to remind you that the whole reason that we are here today is to remind you and plug the show that Alastair and Francis will be having, the Poltroon Press, Trance and Recalcitrance, the private voice in the public realm, running April 1st through May 31st. San Francisco Public Library, the South Wing, the 3rd floor. We hope you can come and see it. It's a wonderful show. And from me, John Demerritt.
And from me, Dominic Reilly. And from Alastair Johnson. Francis Butler.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us your work, demonstrating your artifacts and your fine letterpress work from the last 20 years. And we'll see you, I think, next month, perhaps?
See you next month.
Okay, bye-bye.
City guides are volunteers who enjoy the city and its stories. Let them share their knowledge and enthusiasm with you on free walking tours of various San Francisco locations. Call 557-4266 for more information on free public tours of San Francisco.
You too can be a friend of the San Francisco Public Library. Join us. For more information, phone the Friends of the San Francisco Public Library at 557-4257.
We'd like to hear what you think of At the Public Library. Please send your comments to San Francisco Public Library, Media Production Services, Civic Center, San Francisco, California, 94102.
You've been watching At the Public Library, here on Cable Channel 54, City Watch. At the Public Library features news and information about the San Francisco Public Library system. And for a printed copy of some of the information in this program, pick up a copy of At the Public Library at your branch, or at the main library. Tune in next time for more at the Public Library, and thanks for watching.